Hello and welcome to today's devotional study as we continue to spotlight Matthew. We concluded chapter 5 in our last devotional study and of course turned to chapter 6 today. And in some ways the theme remains the same, and that theme is the pursuit of righteousness. Remember that Jesus said that he was baptized in order that all righteousness might be fulfilled. We remember from the Beatitudes, the fourth Beatitude, we are to hunger and thirst after righteousness that we may be filled. In the eighth Beatitude, it says, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." And we just saw in Jesus' wonderful and penetrating teaching on the law that unless our righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, we shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. Well, we turn the page to chapter 6, verse 1, and here is that word. Greek word is dikaiosune, or dikaios. That's the word group having to do with righteousness. And Jesus will not let that subject go, because we read in verse 1 of this chapter, "Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order that you may be seen by them, for you will have no reward from your Father who is heaven." So we're still having to do with that greater righteousness that Jesus wants to see operative in his life, that greater righteousness that he came to fulfill in his very own life. And today we're going to be turning to three major practices that demonstrated piety or religious faithfulness among the Jews in the first century. Well, what were they? They were almsgiving, the second one was prayer, and the third one was fasting. And we read about them in chapter 6, verses 1 through 18. Now, we're going to read verses 1 through 6 today and then pick up verses 16 through 18. We're going to leave out a big section, verses 7 through 14, 7 through 15, where Jesus drills deeper into the subject of prayer itself. We'll pick that up in our next devotion. But we'll stay on tack with these three major practices of religious faith and piety: almsgiving, prayer, and fasting. So listen to this word of God coming from the English Standard Version. "Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy," this is almsgiving, "sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you." Now moving on to prayer. "And when you pray, you must not be like those hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and the streets, that they may be seen by others. Truly I say to you that they have received their reward." Then moving down to verse 16, the third of these religious practices, fasting. "And when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, that their fasting may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but by your Father who sees in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you." Let's talk through each one of these. The first one, almsgiving, or giving to the poor. We have to remember that in first century Judaism there was no such thing as welfare. There was no such thing as the government handing out subsidies to people who were below the poverty level. No, the way that the poor, the needy, the destitute were provided for was really by begging. Alms for the poor. We hear that, alms for the poor. Well, it really was giving to the poor that they might simply survive. And it was very significant that people would do that for the poor and the needy. But Jesus is critical here. He says there are those who sound the trumpet when they are about to give their gifts to the needy and the poor. You know, sometimes we still have in our American language the old phrase, you don't hear it very often, but have you ever heard it said, well, she likes to toot her own horn. He likes to toot his own horn. Well, that's where the phrase comes from right here. They sound the trumpet when they give their alms. They are tooting their horn as they provide for the needs of others. And they have received their reward in full. And the reward they want is the praise and adulation, acclamation and recognition of other people. But they won't get any reward from God because they don't seek it. What they want, indeed, is for other people to praise them. And their second, tertiary, quaternary interest is in the praise and the blessing of God. But Jesus says you're not supposed to be that way. I love the phrase where Jesus says, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. It's another way of saying not only should we avoid having other people pat us on the back, we should avoid patting ourselves on the back. In fact, we should become so natural at giving to people in their time of need that we are hardly aware that we're even doing it anymore. It's like our right hand doesn't even know that our left hand doesn't even know that our right hand just gave something to someone, because it is an extension of who Jesus has made us to be as his generous people who look for no reward but the blessing of our Father in heaven. Then Jesus goes on to talk about prayer. Of course we are to have public prayer. Jesus was involved in public prayer. But there's two kinds of public prayer. One is the public prayer that is really meant to be heard by the people who are listening. It's a temptation for those who lead in public prayer to be praying for the people who are in the pews, or the people in the Bible study circle, or the prayer group, to hear how flowing and eloquent and spiritual their prayers are. And Jesus says that if that is indeed your goal, then you have received your reward in full. People will be impressed by your loquaciousness and your elocution and your spiritual depth, but that'll be all the reward you get. Now, Jesus says the one whose praise you really want, the one who you really want to hear from you, is not the people around you, but your Father who is in heaven. And he will reward the person whose prayer heart is for the heart of God. And then thirdly, we move on to fasting. Fasting is not something that is practiced very regularly, but it was practiced regularly by the Jews in Jesus' day. In fact, the Pharisees fasted twice a week. And some of those Pharisees were very, very quick to let other people know how pious and spiritual they were. They would disfigure their faces and look disheveled, like, woe is me, it's another week and I have to fast 2 times. Am I not so very spiritual? And again, Jesus, he's consistent, says, if you want people to see just how spiritual you are, and that's what you're interested in, then you've got your reward, which is their recognition. But you will not get the extra credit, if you will, that God could give above and beyond that, because that's all it is, extra credit. The primary credit we should be seeking is the praise and the reward of our Father. Him to say to us, well done, good and faithful servant. And so it needs to be, in our religious practice now. We might not say that giving to the poor or prayer or fasting are at the top of the list of what constitutes spirituality in our culture today. But whatever those things may be at the top of the list, maybe it's a knowledge of the scriptures, maybe it's the amount of money that we give to provide for the poor and the needy, to provide for our church. Perhaps it's our involvement in, I'm stumbling here, teams, organizations, small groups, busy work that's involved in the life of God's people and God's church. Whatever may be at the top of the list, we've got to be careful to make sure that that is being done for the glory of God and never to receive our own glory through the acclamation of people. So search your own heart and ask indeed whose approval, whose praise, whose adulation you thirst for and long for above all else. May it always be soli Deo Gloria, to the glory of God alone. That's our devotion for today. Thanks for joining us, and we will pick up with Jesus on prayer next time.